From our favorite villainous father to our most adored princess and sweetest of Wookies. With the Star Wars franchise spanning over 40 years, there are quite a few stars who are no longer with us. Here are just some of those that will forever be missed. General Jan Dodonna first appeared in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Though his role in the film was fleeting, his character played an important part in the plot. Dodonna formulated the rebellion's plan to destroy the Death Star. He was also the first character to say the franchise's most famous line.
"Then man your ships, and may the Force be with you."
The legendary general was played by Scottish actor Alec McCrindle. While Star Wars was one of his greatest acting roles, McCrindle is better remembered for setting up the Scottish National Committee of Equity in 1953. One tribute to him said, "While highly regarded as an actor, he will be remembered most for his constant battles on behalf of his fellow actors. It's Alec's passion that will be missed most." McCrindle sadly died April 20th, 1990 at the age of 78. However, like his co-star Peter Cushing, the actor's Star Wars legacy lived on through Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. While his character did return to the screen, though, it was not a result of CGI or unused footage. General Dodonna was recast and played by Ian McElhinney in the 2016 film. In a galaxy far, far away, Grand Moff Tarkin plotted the fall of the Rebel Alliance from the comfort of the Death Star. The Imperial officer was played by British actor Peter Cushing, who famously wore slippers for most of his time on set. One of Cushing's earliest roles was in the 1954 BBC adaptation of 1984. This, along with his performances in the 1968 BBC series Sherlock Holmes and Hammer's Frankenstein horror film series, put the actor on George Lucas's radar. The film's creator explained, "I wanted somebody really strong, a really good villain, and actually Peter Cushing was my first choice." Lucas also noted that he wanted someone with a human face to contrast the film's other villain, Darth Vader.
"Enough of this. Vader, release him."
"As you wish."
According to the Daily Star, Cushing was one of the highest earners on the set of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, taking home £2,000 a day, which is about £13,240 today, or almost $17,000. His character died at the end of the film when Luke Skywalker blew up the Death Star, and the actor himself died less than 2 decades later on August 11, 1994. However, Peter Cushing's Star Wars legacy lived on through archival footage and CGI, which brought the character back to life for the 2016 film Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. British actor Sebastian Shaw had a brief but memorable role in Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, as the franchise's villain Darth Vader. Shaw appeared as the unmasked version of the character after taking over the role from David Prowse. Prowse had portrayed the character on screen until that point, with James Earl Jones giving the villain a voice. Shaw's role in the franchise came as a shock to many Star Wars actors and fans who expected to see Prowse when Vader's mask was lifted. While some speculate it was because George Lucas fell out with Prowse, as detailed in The Sun, Shaw said he was cast for another reason. He explained to Starlog magazine, "They decided that they needed a very experienced actor to play that very difficult scene. What was required of him was particularly tough," according to the actor. "The scene wasn't easy to bring off. Incidentally, Mark Hamill nearly took my ears off with the helmet." Shaw largely disappeared from Hollywood after Star Wars, but maintained a presence on British TV. He appeared in films like The Spy in Black and Men Are Not Gods, topping off an impressive career. He died on December 23, 1994. British actor Jack Purvis played multiple characters in the original Star Wars trilogy. He first appeared as Chief Jawa, leader of the Tatooine scavengers who sold R2-D2 and C-3PO to Luke Skywalker and his uncle Owen in Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. He returned for the sequels, playing Chief Ugnaught in Star Wars Episode 5: The Empire Strikes Back and Teebo the Ewok in Star Wars Episode 6: Return of the Jedi. Playing Teebo was Purvis's most notable role in the franchise, and it became a family affair when his daughter, Katie Purvis, also suited up as one of what she called the teddy bear characters. Katie was only a teenager when she got the role, and while she admitted she did not appreciate the opportunity back then, she and her family are now grateful for the experience. Purvis suffered a freak accident when his car collapsed on top of him, leaving the actor a quadriplegic. He died just a few years later on November 21, 1997, at the age of 60. Sir Alec Guinness was one of the biggest names in the original Star Wars trilogy. The actor, who was known for the Lavender Hill Mob and Dr. Zhivago, played the Jedi Master Obi-Wan Ben Kenobi. However, while his character was an important part of the original trilogy, Guinness was not too fond of the role he played. He even begged George Lucas to kill off his character after a few weeks of filming. According to Entertainment Weekly, he said, "I just couldn't go on speaking those bloody awful lines. I'd had enough of the mumbo-jumbo."
When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Only a master of evil, gods.
However, whether Guinness's pleas actually contributed to Lucas's decision to have Obi-Wan die in the film is unclear. And while his character died in the first movie, Guinness still had to return for the second and third films as a spirit thanks to the power of the Force. Guinness died from cancer-related complications on August 5, 2000. Despite the actor's complicated relationship with the Star Wars franchise, his intergalactic legacy has remained strong in the years since his death.
I felt a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced.
Sheila Fraser was a prolific British actor who starred in a multitude of TV shows and was probably best known for her roles in the ITV dramas A Family at War and The Professionals. She also had a significant turn on the stage and later in life became a dramatist after, according to The Guardian, she became fascinated by the challenges of radio drama. In the mid-1970s, Fraser landed what would become her most global role when she joined the cast of Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope as Luke Skywalker's aunt, Beru. Though her part in the film is short, Beru is undoubtedly an important character. As the Princess Diaries author Meg Cabot noted when discussing the essay she penned in Star Wars from a certain point of view about Beru's importance, her murder shapes Luke's journey and character arc. Her death ultimately allows him to become the hero he was always meant to be. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Cabot said, "The fact that she's not there anymore is what compels him to go with Ben Kenobi and, of course, save the princess and with her destroy the Death Star." The author even goes so far as to call Fraser's character the most important figure in A New Hope. Fraser died on August 29, 2000 at the age of 79, as reported by The Guardian. Scottish character actor Michael Sheard had an incredibly prolific career and had roles in numerous television shows. He is perhaps best known for playing villains like the Imperial officer Admiral Ozzel in Star Wars Episode 5 The Empire Strikes Back and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade as Adolf Hitler, a role he played 4 other times. He also secured big parts and small character arcs on many series throughout his decade-spanning career. Notably, he appeared 6 times in Doctor Who, playing multiple characters alongside 5 different doctors. He was more than just an actor, though. Sheard also wrote a series of autobiographies throughout his life, chronicling the details of what it meant to work as an actor. He wanted to name his second book, Yes, Admiral Ozzel. However, after writing to George Lucas for permission to use the name, Sheard received a letter from, quote, one of his underlings who deemed his request inappropriate, according to Television Heaven. The letter essentially told him he could mention he was in the film, but he should not make that fact the focus of his book. He quipped, "I wrote back to this guy and I said, look, I was only on the film for a month, so how on earth could I fill a whole book about Star Wars?" He eventually named the book Yes, Admiral. The actor died on August 31, 2005 from cancer-related complications. British character actor John Hollis had secured numerous television and movie roles throughout his long career. A veteran of both the small screen and the radio, he also had some memorable turns in films. Notably, he had an uncredited role as Ernst Stavro Blofeld in the James Bond film For Your Eyes Only, which was uncredited due to rights issues. He was also a Kryptonian elder in the Christopher Reeve-led Superman franchise. Eventually, he landed one of his biggest movie roles, securing the part of Lobot, Lando Calrissian's aide in Star Wars Episode 5 The Empire Strikes Back. However, the mute cyborg was originally meant to be a very different character, which Hollis explained in an interview with Star Wars Insider, saying, "Originally, Lobot had quite a lot of lines to read, but they had a discussion where they decided it would be better if he didn't talk, because he had been lobotomized, and he was getting messages through the computer. The dialogue was just very much answering questions." Hollis sadly died on October 18, 2005 at the age of 77. Actor Phil Brown played Luke Skywalker's uncle Owen in Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, a role he got in a unique way. The American actor was making a name for himself in Hollywood after a fairly successful stage career when he got caught up in the Red Scare of the 1950s. During this time period, many actors were accused of being communists and blacklisted from Hollywood, never to work again. While Brown always maintained he was never a part of the Communist Party, he nevertheless moved his family to London to avoid any further scrutiny. He found work in England, including a small part in Star Wars, which he got because George Lucas asked for someone with a strong American accent, according to Today. Though the character of Owen is integral to the film and Star Wars lore, the role was not a particularly big accomplishment for Brown. He admitted to the Baltimore Sun, "It was a very small part by comparison to the roles I had previously played. To be quite frank, I never gave it a thought again." However, despite Brown's attitude, the role undoubtedly helped his career reach new heights. Though his parts in films like The Boy Cried Murder and Tropic of Cancer may have been bigger, his turn as Uncle Owen in Star Wars made him an international celebrity. Brown died on February 9, 2006 as a result of pneumonia. He was 89 years old. If you do not recognize the name Lawrence Larry Ward, you will certainly know the name of his Star Wars character, Jabba the Hutt. Although uncredited, Ward played the slug-like crime lord in Star Wars Episode 6: Return of the Jedi. However, this wasn't actually Ward's first part in the franchise. He previously voiced the character Greedo, also uncredited, in the famous cantina scene of Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. The character was physically portrayed by Paul Blake, who discussed the popularity of the character 40 years later with Empire, saying, "I've never had a fan be aggressive about Greedo. They seem to like him for some reason." However, Blake joked he does not know why the character is still so popular. He was the most inept assassin since the beginning of Assassins. Ward's roles in Star Wars made up 2 of his few acting credits, though that small number of productions was probably by choice. He was actually a linguist who was enlisted for help designing some of the languages for the franchise by the film's sound designer, Ben Burt, as seen in the book Encyclopedia of Fictional and Fantastic Languages. Most notably, they developed Huttese, basing it on Quechua, though Ward improvised much of the language while filming. The actor and linguist sadly died on October 15, 2007. Scottish actor, director, and producer Christopher Malcolm played the rebel pilot Zev Seneska, Rogue 2 in Star Wars Episode 5: The Empire Strikes Back. He's the pilot who rescued Luke Skywalker and Han Solo on Hoth, and later fought alongside the young Jedi during the Battle of Hoth. Malcolm told Jedi News in 2006, "At the time of filming, it was a growing phenomenon, so there was a knowledge that we were in something special." Outside of the Star Wars universe, Malcolm was known for playing Brad Majors in the original stage production of Richard O'Brien's The Rocky Horror Show in 1974, and he later became a co-producer on the musical for its West End revival. He enjoyed a fairly long career, securing parts in Labyrinth and Highlander as well. Malcolm died from cancer-related complications on February 15, 2014, at just 67 years old, as confirmed by The Guardian. His daughter, Morgan Lloyd Malcolm, broke the news on Twitter, writing, "Today the world lost a beautiful, brilliant man. My dad, Christopher Malcolm, left peacefully and with dignity. He will always be my hero." Sir Christopher Lee was one of the biggest names in the Star Wars prequel films. The British star who played Count Dooku had already starred in the first installment of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Fellowship of the Ring, which in 2001 grossed over $880 million worldwide. Lee appeared in numerous Hollywood blockbusters, including the second and third installments of The Lord of the Rings, and Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones, and Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith.
It is finished. Surrender, and your lives will be spared.
He also almost made it into another huge franchise, as he was contacted to play Albus Dumbledore in the Harry Potter films, though he turned it down. While Star Wars was a notable credit for Lee, he stated that starring in the Lord of the Rings trilogy was a dream come true. He shared his feelings about the Tolkien story to Total Film, saying, "I always dreamed that it would one day be made, and I always dreamed I'd be in it." The actor had a prolific career spanning nearly 7 decades, and he continued acting up until his death. In 2012, he reprised the role of Sauron in the Hobbit trilogy, and its last installment, The Battle of the Five Armies, was his last film to be released in his lifetime. Lee died on June 7, 2015 at age 93, as reported by The Guardian, after facing respiratory problems and heart failure. 3 more films in which he starred were released posthumously. British actor Gordon Drewe Henley was best known for his television roles, but also performed in plays like Relative Values. A prolific actor who worked throughout the 1960s and 70s, Henley retired in the late 70s. According to The Times, this was due to his ongoing struggle with mental health issues, which were later revealed to be bipolar disorder, and to focus on his marriage with fellow actor Felicity Kendall. Before retiring, Henley nabbed a small part in Star Wars, playing Garvin Drewe, also known as Red Leader in A New Hope. This turned out to be his last role on film, though he was inaccurately credited as Drewe Henley. He performed in one last TV movie before hanging up his acting hat for good. The opportunity to correct the crediting mistake came about in 2016 when Henley appeared in Rogue One, a Star Wars story, thanks to archival footage and CGI. According to The Mirror, an investigation confirmed the actor sadly died on February 14, 2016, after he choked on the fish pie he had been eating for lunch. He was 75 years old. Actor Erik Bauersfeld originally auditioned to play the Jedi Master Yoda in Star Wars. The American voice actor just missed out on the part, which went to Frank Oz, but he ended up scoring 2 roles in the franchise instead. Bauersfeld played Admiral Ackbar and Bib Fortuna in Star Wars Episode 6: Return of the Jedi. Ackbar may have only had a few minutes of screen time, but the character was responsible for delivering one of the film's most iconic lines. Just in time to warn the rebels about the Empire's attack, he yells,
It's a trap!
Outside of his roles in Return of the Jedi, Bauersfeld voiced characters in films like Crimson Peak and a variety of radio dramas. This background helped him create Ackbar's voice without needing any direction. In an interview with the San Francisco Chronicle, he explained, "I saw the face and I knew what he would sound like." Bauersfeld reprised his role from the 1983 film and played Ackbar again in Star Wars Episode 7: The Force Awakens. The Hollywood Reporter confirmed this was the actor's last film role before he died on April 3, 2016, at age 93. Celebrated Star Wars actor Kenny Baker played R2-D2 in the original Star Wars trilogy, as well as the Ewok Poplu in Star Wars Episode 6: Return of the Jedi. He also reprised the role of the droid in Star Wars Episode 7: The Force Awakens, and played the character until his death. Though R2-D2 was probably his best-known character, it was far from his only one. Baker appeared in numerous other films and a few TV shows, including Time Bandits and Willow, both of which saw him co-star alongside his fellow Star Wars actor Jack Purvis. While his turn as R2-D2 would become iconic, it almost never happened. To the surprise of most Star Wars fans, Baker initially refused the role in the franchise. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, he revealed, "I turned it down about 3 times. I thought, well, I'd rather not be stuck in a robot, to be honest." Thankfully, he changed his mind and became a prominent part of one of the world's most successful film franchises. The actor, who was not supposed to survive to adulthood, died on August 13, 2016. He was 81 years old and had been, according to CNN, ill for years from a lung condition.
Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
Huh?
Carrie Fisher was known for starring in iconic films like When Harry Met Sally and Scream 3, but to many she was simply Princess Leia. She played the strong and powerful princess-turned-general in the original Star Wars trilogy and became a household name after the success of the films. However, she admitted she had a love-hate relationship with one of her most famous scenes. The actor often complained about the revealing gold bikini she was forced to wear and said the scene was only redeemed for her because she got to kill Jabba the Hutt. She told NPR, "I really relished that because I hated wearing that outfit. I couldn't wait to kill him." Fisher reprised her role for the sequel trilogy and appeared in Star Wars Episode 7: The Force Awakens and Star Wars Episode 8: The Last Jedi. However, she died on December 26, 2016, before filming for the 9th movie had begun. She is survived by her daughter, Billie Lourd, who played Lieutenant Connix in the films. Lourd revealed to Time that Star Wars Episode 9: The Rise of Skywalker was supposed to be Leia's movie, so together with director J.J. Abrams, Lourd agreed to use a combination of CGI and previously unseen footage to complete the film and honor Fisher's legacy.
Nobody worries about upsetting a droid.
It's because a droid don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose. Wookiees are known to do that.
Peter Mayhew rose to fame playing the Wookiee Chewbacca in Star Wars. The British-American actor played the character in the original trilogy and also reprised the role for the prequel film, Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith, and the first installment of the sequel trilogy, Star Wars Episode 7: The Force Awakens. And while Chewie was a pretty important character in Star Wars, it's interesting to note that Mayhew never actually uttered a word as the character. In a 2015 interview with Rolling Stone, the actor revealed, George Lucas told me right away it was going to be a mime character. Much of Mayhew's career focused on the character he loved to play, and the actor spent a lot of his time going to conventions and doing cameos. Returning to the franchise in 2015 was particularly special, and he admitted he had goosebumps when he first saw the trailer, which included Chewie returning to the Millennium Falcon again.
Chewie, we're home.
He told Rolling Stone, "It was a phenomenal experience, and I won't ever forget it." Mayhew died on April 30th, 2019 after suffering a heart attack at the age of 74. His longtime co-star and friend Harrison Ford shared a tribute to the actor in a statement to The Hollywood Reporter, saying, "We were partners in film and friends in life for over 30 years, and I loved him."
He told me you killed him. No, I am your father.
Any Star Wars fan will know the name David Prowse, as the British actor and bodybuilder played Darth Vader in the original trilogy. Though viewers do not get to see Prowse's face in the film, which is hidden behind Vader's signature mask, his impressive 6'6" stature was one of his most notable features. And while fans loved him, Prowse did not enjoy such a relationship with Star Wars creator George Lucas. Rightly or wrongly, Prowse was unfortunately on the receiving end of Lucas's wrath while filming Star Wars Episode 6: Return of the Jedi. This tension allegedly resulted in Prowse's face not being used when Darth Vader was unmasked, with the role being given to Sebastian Shaw instead. Lucas also allegedly banned Prowse from any further Star Wars premieres.
There is a great disturbance in the Force.
Thankfully, Prowse was still able to take many happy memories away from his Star Wars days, which included a fond friendship with his co-stars Kenny Baker and Peter Mayhew. Prowse also remained committed to his Star Wars fans and attended as many conventions and events as possible, usually alongside Baker and Mayhew. In 2012, the actor told Rockseller magazine just how grateful he was for the support of his fans, saying, "Who would have thought this character, who is now regarded as the most famous villain of all time, would be received with so much love and affection? It's incredible." Prowse sadly died on November 28, 2020 at the age of 85.